Welcome to the Insomnia Project. Sit back, relax, lay back, stand up, do whatever you need to get yourself in a state where you can listen to a conversation that is mundane and really not about anything in particular. We hope you will listen and sleep. I'm your host. Thank you for joining us. My name is Marco Timpano.
And I am Nidhi Khanna, your co-host.
Yes. Extraordinary.
Extraordinary.
Nidhi, we left the last recording where we talked about your trip to Bonaire.
Yes.
I gotta say this. I love the fact that you came back home from this beautiful island trip. Enough time to unpack, wash your clothes, pack them, and off you went. Tell us.
Marco, I went from tropical Caribbean to the beautiful, actually it was quite sunny, fall-like weather of Edinburgh, Scotland.
Amazing. Had you been before?
I'd been in 2003, I think, when I was living in London for the Fringe.
Okay.
But I have not been back since. And it is an amazing, amazing city. It's beautiful. It's got a ton of history, obviously.
Yes.
It's very walkable. It's got tons of coffee shops and restaurants. And
Great art scene.
Great art scene.
It's the biggest Fringe festival in the world. And for people who don't know what Fringe is, it's a festival where anyone can enter and put on a play, a dance, some sort of theatrical production. And people come from all over the world to different Fringe festivals, like the Toronto Fringe Festival. And Nidhi, then the sort of crown jewel is to take your show to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
Exactly.
But you went there not for Fringe.
No, the other thing that Scotland is known for is their social enterprise scene. And Marco, as you know, my day job involves me working in social enterprise.
Great.
And I got this very random travel grant from an organization in Canada called S4ES, which...
Shout out to S4.
S4ES, exactly. And I was able to get a travel grant to go there.
Amazing.
And attend the Social Enterprise World Forum, which was awesome. And it was so cool to see all these different organizations from across the world doing amazing things to make the world a better place.
As you are.
As we all are.
Sure.
As this podcast is in many ways too. And so during sort of this conference, there was an exhibitors lounge, and there was also an organization or the founder of an organization who was speaking on one of the panels called the Good Wash Company. And they also had an exhibit, and they make ethical products, and they're a social enterprise, and they give back the proceeds and the profits of the body washes and
consumable goods,
the hygiene products, whatever, to further their mission. And so they have a ton of hotel chains and things that are on their roster, and so it's really great.
Shout out to them.
Yes. And so in their exhibition, they were selling some of their products, and one of the products that they have is a dog wash shampoo. And it was a great story because this is how amazing people can be, right? And I went down there, and there was one dog wash
like a station
product.
Oh, okay.
No product. It was like a shampoo, essentially, that was left, and I really wanted it. It smells amazing, and their credit card machine wasn't working, and I couldn't take out cash because I was like, it's just like a mess, right? And so they were like, come back tomorrow and we'll figure it out.
Right.
So the next day, I see the guy. I guess they were also attending the conference, and I see the guy that I was speaking to the day before. He finds me in the crowd, and he's like, "Oh, come back downstairs. We'll figure this out." And he had put aside that one bottle of dog wash, and had given me my card, and you put it away so that no one else would take it. And I was really appreciative. And we just kept missing each other throughout the day, and I was like, "Oh boy, I'm never gonna get this dog wash, right? This shampoo, this." I forgot what it's called off the top of my head, but I'll find the product and take a picture of it. We can put it up. And anyways, Friday, the last session of the day, everybody is leaving the conference, like to go back home, goodbye, etc. In like 800 people, this young man from the Good Wash company found me.
Wow.
He's like, we need to give you your wash. He's like, just email us and we'll figure out the credit card payment. Don't worry about it. Anyway, so I finally email them and they're like, don't worry about it.
Oh.
We want you and Zena to enjoy it. Anyways, I had given Zena a bath the other day as soon as I got back using it. And it was so nice. She smelled so good.
Ooh.
She smelled like flowers.
And so it's a good wash, too.
It's called the Good Wash. It's called the Good Wash. The company is called the Good Wash Company.
It's like the Good Wife. Juliana Margulies should use it on
there
her
you
hair.
go.
I'm kidding.
It's
but
true.
Listen, you know what? They have no idea that we're mentioning them on our
Not
podcast.
at all.
So we'll make sure that they hear that we're talking about the Good Wash.
And they told me that the actual dog wash can be used on humans
of
too.
Course.
And so I'm like, oh, maybe I'll use this for
It's just shampoo. Like it's probably a gentler shampoo for dogs. And you know what I bet, Nidhi? Because... And once again, I have
she's so soft. Zena's here too right now,
yeah.
so she's like...
And you know what? I noticed when I pet her, I was like, oh, she's you notice
soft.
I was really petting her? I was like, oh, you're so adorable.
Yeah.
It's probably the Good Wash, because usually she's not that adorable. No, I'm kidding. But
true.
I will say this about dog shampoo.
Yeah.
Because it needs to be milder because it's more likely to go in the dog's eyes than our shampoo is.
Yes.
Because our shampoo can be very harsh, right? So I'm sure you could use it on yourself. You know, I remember one time I was in Europe and I was taking a shower at a friend's house. And she had a multitude of different products. And
like dog products?
No, they were like hygiene products.
Okay.
And I don't know why I'm starting to tell this story, but here we go. And so
I love it.
It was all in Dutch, and I couldn't figure out because I don't speak Dutch, right?
Of course not.
And so I was like, you just end up sniffing the bottles, and you just figure out which one smells more like shampoo. So I went and I used it, and then she's like, your hair. She goes, what did you use on your hair? And I was like, I used the shampoo. And she goes, which one? I go, the one with the flower on it. And she's like, well, that's a feminine hygiene.
Oh, my God.
I'm like, well, listen, it cleaned it. Because she's like, it's the smell. I recognize the smell. And she was like, you know what? She goes, good for you. I'm like, look, got my hair really clean.
There you go.
I had no problem with it.
There you go.
But back to your...
This is, I know, out of all the experiences in Edinburgh, I was like, the woof wash.
No, but that's
great.
What a lovely, what lovely individuals...
Yeah.
To do that.
Yes.
And where are they based out of?
They're based out of the UK. I want to say Scotland. Actually, I want to say cool. Edinburgh, but and the wash itself. Oh no, it's coming out.
It's all good.
The wash itself was like a lavender rose. I know how much you love like those smells. But Mark, have you ever tried to wash a dog?
Yes, I have.
Because your parents have a dog.
Yeah, it's not fun.
They like tantrums.
Yes, they don't. Sometimes they like it, but they'll only like it for a certain amount of time. Then they're like,
and then they're
enough.
Done.
And you're like, I've got to rinse you.
I know.
Look, I'm not enjoying this either. Let's get through this.
It's an ordeal.
And then they always look, as dogs with a lot of like long fur, they always look so tiny and mouse-like. And it's like, oh my goodness.
I wonder why they hate it so much.
Because they love going in the water.
They love water.
If there's a beach, they're in the water. But I guess because they don't have control and they're stuck in a little tub and they're like, this is not what
I signed up for.
Speaking of shampoo, what kind of shampoos do you like, Nidhi?
Well, I'm really trying to get into shampoos that have that are better for the environment.
Yes. Funny, that's what we use.
Yeah, I know you always have.
Yeah, we got on that train
a long time ago.
A long time ago.
Yeah. But because I've dyed my hair kind of like a blonder, I use a shampoo
for
like a purpley shampoo.
Yeah, sure,
but I think it's time to make a little bit more of a conscious choice around shampoo and conditioner for myself. I use a lot of like coconut oil
it's so good for you, yeah.
Instead of conditioner, like what's it called? Not pharmaceutical conditioner. What's it called? Like consumer product. And actually, as we were saying in Bonaire last time, as we were talking about Bonaire, what I found, Marco, is when I would get out of the salt water, my hair would be completely frazzled,
Of
right,
course,
and fried. And I would put coconut oil right away.
Great.
And then go home and just like rinse it out and it'd be great.
We've mentioned this tip before.
Have we?
You've mentioned it. No, you've mentioned it before, how great coconut oil is.
Yes.
But in particular, if your hair is dry or if you find that it's splitting, look at me talking. The reason I
love
say
it.
this,
I love it.
you know, because my mom was a hairdresser all my life,
Yes.
right? So I've often seen her use different things for different ailments. But if you find your hair is dried, frazzled, frizzy, put a little coconut in your hands, mix it together, and put it in your hair. Let it sit for a bit. Wash it out,
And you're good.
and you're good.
You're good. You know what I found when I was in Edinburgh? The water is different there, right?
Yes.
And it really changed. It did a number on my hair and my skin.
Yeah.
I know that it's harder water there, but I never think about the impact it actually has and how quickly it could have an impact. My hair just frizzled out completely.
Amazing.
And then as soon as I got back home,
It was like,
yeah,
back to normal.
yeah.
Or I wouldn't even say normal. It's just
It was
different,
just,
yeah.
it went back to what I'm used to.
What else did you experience in Edinburgh that you enjoyed?
You know, I walked that entire city.
Amazing.
I walked, there's some really cool, I mean, you've got the touristy attractions of the Old Town. And what I like about Edinburgh is that even though there's kind of like the tourist areas, they don't feel touristy in a commercial sense.
Great.
They're touristy in a historical sense,
Sure.
definitely, like the castle, and but you still feel it feels very walkable. You don't feel like you're in the middle of just, at least the time that I went. I don't know, maybe at different times it feels different, but there were these really interesting areas that are almost semi-suburbs of Edinburgh, I guess,
Right.
like Dean Village, Stockbridge, that have really cool restaurants and bars, and there's a ton of coffee shops, and it reminded me a lot of Montreal. Growing up in Montreal, there was so many different coffee shops that anywhere you walked, you could just find a cafe, and it's the same thing in Edinburgh, which is amazing, and the gardens and the greenery and the parkland is beautiful, and it's a very, very livable city.
Oh, so great.
Yeah.
So great. I haven't been. I would love to go. I love
think you would
the
really like
UK. I always have. You know that there's an old British woman trapped inside me because I love tea. I love scones or sconces, however you say it. I love vases. I love the Great British Baking
I know you
show.
love that show.
Nidhi, it is the best. I'm not so in love with the new hosts,
Oh, okay.
but I love the show so much that it doesn't really matter.
Amazing.
Because there's something so relaxing and tranquil. And I will give this as a tip to our listeners. If you need something to get you, just chilled and relaxed and you've had enough of hearing our voices, tune in to the Great British Bake Off. Because they spend time. And what's nice, Nidhi, is like, I love British TV for this. So they get their Genoese sponge and they put it in the oven. And then you'll see them sitting in front of the oven with a tea in their hand, and they're just looking into the oven and drinking their tea. And they're like, oh, I hope it rises. I hope it doesn't brown too much. And they're just watching someone drink tea and look into an oven, for me is heaven. So.
But Marco, now you've been away too. You were in Boston?
I was in Boston and Salem. I had a wedding
Ooh, Salem.
in Salem at the House of Seven Gables.
Tell me about that.
It's a historic house and it's featured in a book that someone famous wrote, and I can't remember. Well, this is terrible because my wife's from New England. She's going to be kicking me. I can't remember who wrote it, but this person, it's a famous person. Hawthorne, maybe?
Nathaniel Hawthorne?
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to go with that.
Okay.
You'll look it up.
I'm done. I'm on it. I'm on it.
And he wrote, or that person wrote about the House of Seven Gables. And so the wedding was at the House of Seven Gables, this beautiful old house. And it was by the ocean. And it was just really beautiful, Nidhi. And something about New England. And we had a lobster roll at just a little we had it at a little
Chowder.
shop. I didn't have chowder actually,
No?
but Amanda loves lobster rolls. We were at this little, I think it was called the Lobster Trap. It was just a little tiny restaurant, and they were closing. They're like, you've got 15 minutes. So I ordered like chicken fingers or something, and Amanda's like, I'm going to get the lobster roll. I'm like, you're going to get a lobster roll here. They're closing in 15 minutes. What do you think you're going to get?
Yeah.
She's like, this is the best lobster roll I've ever had.
What?
Nidhi, it was like all claw. It was like 6 ounces. It was fantastic.
They were like, whatever we have left. You're just getting in the sandwich.
No, I just think they did a proper lobster roll.
Wow.
And my wife's a connoisseur of
Of course
lobster
she
rolls.
is.
So.
Of course she
But
is.
anyway, so Salem is great. You know, there's a lot of the witch trials happen there. So there's a
course.
lot of witch stuff, right?
Yeah.
But when you look past the witch stuff and just look at the town or the city itself, and once again, very walkable, really New England. And then we spent time in Boston, and we went to, my favorite part of Boston is the North End.
Okay.
It happens to
Why?
be where, well, it happens to be where Paul Revere's house is,
Okay.
but it has nothing to do with that. That's where the Little Italy is. And I stumbled upon it, and I'm not the type of person who's like, I've got to go to the Little Italy's, but we had stumbled upon it because we were in Paul Revere's, right by his house, and Amanda's like, oh, this is Little Italy, right? And it's a very authentic Little Italy. A lot of Little Italies, like the one here in Toronto, a lot of the Italians have moved out of it, so it's lost a little bit of that. The North End isn't like
Yeah.
that. And there's this pastry shop called Mike's Pastry that I love to go to, where they make cannolis, and they're fantastic. It just so happens we were there when they were having the feast of St. Anthony. So they had, you know, the parade with the saint.
Yeah.
And it was just a big party, and it felt like a feast that I hadn't seen anywhere else in a long time. Like I haven't seen a feast exactly like that, as authentic like that in Toronto since I was a kid. So it really brought me back, and I had a great time. But I didn't get a cannoli at Mike's, but I will next time I'm there.
Wow. And what do you love about those feasts so much? What is the element that you're like, oh, this is not, is it the nostalgia? Is it the event itself? Is it...
You know, Nidhi, I'm not a particularly religious person, so it's not about the religion or the saint that they parade down, but it's what you see in movies where they'll bring the saint down so people can pin money on him, and then there's people who are like, there's people singing in Italian and whatnot, and then you turn the corner and there's all these restaurants that are serving different foods, and then you just see, it's beautiful because you see people in the neighborhood seeing people that maybe moved out of the neighborhood, and there's big hugs and kisses, and there's like people just having a really good time. And it didn't feel so commercial. Like I find when they do it here, there's a lot of different sponsors that are really making big noise and big fuss, and I didn't find that in Boston's North End.
Right.
So, and Boston's just a really cool city. Yeah, I really love Boston.
Yeah, I've only been there once a long time ago, but I remember it being very, very, again, a city that I was like, I could live here.
Yeah.
You know?
And I've got friends in Boston that I didn't look up this time, but I will next time. We were just there. We were in Boston for one day, one night, and we were in Salem for the rest. And what's funny, we were in this hotel, Nidhi. Okay, so all I need in a hotel is a comfortable bed and a nice bathroom, and it has to be clean. That's all I need.
Right.
We checked ourselves into this funk hotel. So it was like, well, it's not an actual. That's what I.
You need to qualify that. I'm like, okay.
It's one of these really trendy hotels.
Okay.
When something's really trendy, I just call it. I just use.
Funk hotel?
I just use the word funk in its place. One of these really trendy, like you'll see it in magazines, and it's all hip, and
Of course.
you know, it's got an upstairs patio that looks upon the city and all this stuff. So, Nidhi, I don't need to stay in places like that. That's not my scene, because it's a little bit too, you know, there's young people who are just having a good time and whatnot. It's like, don't be noisy in the hallway. I need my sleep, right? We check
You
in.
are a British, like, older
I
lady.
am. I am. Where's my hat? Where's my corsage? I'm ready to go out and drink some tea. So we open the hotel room door, and we look, and I'm like, we have a king bed. And the concierge is like, that is a king. It's a micro king.
Okay, hold on. I need to let Zena out.
Yeah, I don't blame her, because she's going to get upset when she hears the rest of this story. Zena is Nidhi's dog, in case you are wondering. Do you know what a micro king is?
No, because it's not a term.
Thank you. what happened was these rooms were so small that they smushed in a king bed
What?
into a little area so that the foot of the bed hit the wall and the head of the bed hit the wall. And so the person who was sleeping on the side of the bed was sleeping next to a wall. So we were like a bed that was sort of walled in. And so you kind of have to step up and you're in this like micro king.
Micro king.
And I know that because it just so happened Natasha Boomer was in Boston when we were there.
Oh.
Yeah, so we got to hang out with her, which was really a lot of fun, her and her sister, Shona. And so I go, you got to see this. And I showed this micro king. She goes, I love it. She goes, this is mine. And I'm like, no. So different strokes for different folks.
Yep.
But everything was a little bit too cool for school. So you had to... They had growlers that you could get water and bring them back to your hotel room. And then they had, what did they have? You know, those bathrooms that are all glass so you can see inside the bathroom. And it's like, enough with this. Enough. I don't need all this
fancy stuff.
Funk, as I'd like to call it. But all this trend, like it was so trendy that it was... Some of it wasn't functional. So it was like, oh, this is really cool, but clearly this is in the wrong spot. Or this is a cool bathroom, but I can't really close the door completely. So it was all these little things. And they had said to me, there's an iPad in your room when you go there. So they didn't have phones to call down to the concierge.
Oh, of course not.
Because it's really trendy, Nidhi, right? So they have an iPad that you can iPad the concierge. So I go in my room and I'm like, There's no iPad, and the person.
But you can't actually get in touch with downstairs to say that there's no iPad.
Right, and they had said if that iPad goes missing, we're going to charge you $700, right? So I'm like, wait a second, someone stole the iPad, and now so I went down. I'm like, there's no iPad in my room. There's no iPad. I don't want to be charged for it. And they're like, oh, you're in the Micro King. The Micro Kings don't get the iPad. Oh. I'm like, what? So I'm thinking the Micro King room was a good room, but it's like
So wait, is there any form of communication?
Your feet going down the stairs to talk to somebody.
No. So basically, if you get injured in the room and need to contact downstairs, you're just SOL.
Grab your growler and bang on the floor or bang on the wall. I don't know what else to say to you. So... in case you're wondering what the growler looks like, I have one right in the other room. We took a growler.
Oh my God.
So
that's hilarious.
There was something else that was upsetting that happened, and I can't remember what it was, but I was like, oh, you know the thing that holds the toilet paper? Mm-hmm. Well, they had put it in such a place, and they didn't secure it right. So I guess the people who had been in the room beforehand used it to sort of get themselves up and broke it off the wall. Yeah, so it was all these little things where it's like, yeah, it's very stylish, but you haven't looked
It's not functional.
It's not functional. Anyways, I'm very particular, I guess, when it comes to hotel rooms. I'm supposed to be relaxing our listeners, and it's just me complaining.
Well, in Edinburgh, I used Airbnb I've used Airbnb before, but I used it for the first time on my own. Mm-hmm. And I know that's controversial for some folks.
Sure.
But I quite enjoyed it because it was literally a minute away from from the conference center that I was at. And it just felt like I was coming home to something. Yeah. And I think even though I was traveling before for a vacation, you know, when you're traveling a lot, I can see how it would be really nice to just feel like you're coming back to an apartment rather than another hotel room. Sure. And it was actually quite nice. And it made me, to your point, I think it makes you respect the space more. I think in a hotel room, it's like people just don't care because it's like, whatever, someone's going to clean it up. And when it's someone else's space, like there's an automatic feeling of responsibility and accountability that, I mean...
I certainly don't love when people come into my hotel room. So like when the staff comes to change over stuff, it's like I don't like that. I'd rather have leave the space to me and I'll make sure it's neat. I don't need you coming into my space. I don't like that. So for me, something like that is ideal because it's like once you're in there, it's yours. You know, mi casa es su casa. You treat it respectfully and it'll feel like your own little home away from home.
Exactly. So
did it rain while you were there?
Off and on. Okay. For the most part, it was actually quite sunny and really great weather. So
there's something charming about when it rains in the UK, though. I have to say, You lived there for a while, so you're probably over it. But
no, definitely. I mean, it's definitely part of the ambiance or experience.
Like
of
going,
the
like
UK.
I remember going to a pub and it was raining outside, and all you could do was kind of stay in the pub with your friends and just drink.
Exactly.
Whether you were drinking beer or playing darts or whatnot, it was just felt very.
Well, I mean, there's also, I think, a different coziness. I don't know, like. Just going to the pub and having a drink is a little bit more of a lifestyle there than here, for example.
Sure.
Or getting a takeaway and bringing it back and just having a good night in and watching some TV is just, I mean, we do that here for sure. And I think that our winters are similar in terms of that vibe of like wanting that comfort.
There's something to be said about coziness.
There is. You know what? It was really actually difficult to come back into the heat of Toronto.
Okay.
Because in Edinburgh, when I was there, it was like 13 degrees at night, 8 degrees at night, and during the days it was like 16, 17. So I was wearing a jacket, light jacket, and I had a hat on.
That's right. This is Celsius for
yes.
our U.S. listeners.
And then coming back to Toronto, where it is 27 degrees. What is that, like 80 degrees?
I would say so. Yeah.
80 something.
Something. Yeah.
Was a bit of that
temperature shock.
That was more jarring than going from hot to cold.
Right.
It was going from cold to hot again, because I think in Edinburgh I was ready with all my fall clothes, and I think being in September in Toronto I was ready to come back to fall as well.
Amazing.
And then it wasn't. It was super summer. It was summer.
Well, there you go. That brings us, that cozy little
coziness
enclave brings us to the end of our episode. Did I get it right with the House of the Seven Gables?
You did. It was Nathaniel Hawthorne.
Yay. Well, that's great. Thank you for listening.
As always, we are produced by Drumcast Productions, and we are recording from Toronto, Canada. And we hope that you listen and sleep.